In the heart of a sprawling, bustling city, there stood a towering apartment complex known as the Whispering Heights. It was a behemoth of concrete and steel, casting a long, dark shadow over the neighborhood. People whispered tales of its eerie past, but when Sarah and Mark moved into apartment 13B on the 13th floor, they dismissed the superstitions as mere nonsense. The first night was uneventful, save for the occasional creaks and groans of the building. However, as the days turned into weeks, strange occurrences began to plague their new home. One evening, as they watched TV, the lights flickered ominously, and Sarah felt a cold, clammy hand brush against her shoulder. Mark dismissed it as a draft, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next night, their sleep was shattered by haunting whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Mark jumped out of bed, searching for the source, but found nothing. "It's just the neighbors," he assured Sarah, though deep down, he too felt a growing unease. As the weeks passed, their dreams turned into nightmares. They dreamt of shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their apartment, whispering malevolent secrets into their ears. Sarah even began seeing these figures when she was awake, darting out of her peripheral vision, only to vanish when she turned to confront them. One rainy night, they decided to investigate the building's history. They discovered that the Whispering Heights was built upon the site of an old asylum that had burned down decades ago. Rumors abounded of cruel experiments performed on the patients, and whispers of restless spirits that had never found peace. Desperation drove Sarah and Mark to seek the help of a local paranormal investigator, Dr. Raymond. He arrived with a bag full of equipment, his skeptical demeanor giving way to a sense of curiosity. As they gathered in the dimly lit living room, the atmosphere grew heavy, and the whispers intensified. Dr. Raymond set up his equipment and began an EVP session, asking questions to the unseen entities. The responses were chilling. The ghostly voices spoke of torment, of suffering, and of secrets long buried. Sarah and Mark's blood ran cold as they listened to the spectral confessions. Determined to put an end to the hauntings, Dr. Raymond suggested a seance. Gathering in a circle, they clasped hands and began to summon the spirits. The room grew colder, and a dark presence enveloped them. Whispers turned into screams, and the apartment's walls seemed to pulse with malevolence. Suddenly, a spectral figure materialized before them. It was the ghost of a former asylum patient, a woman named Eliza, who had suffered unspeakable horrors within these walls. Her ghostly form wailed with anguish, and she pointed accusingly at Sarah and Mark. "You must leave," she cried, "or suffer as we have suffered." Terrified, Sarah and Mark agreed to leave the apartment, never to return. As they hastily packed their belongings, the whispers grew louder, echoing through the corridors. It was as if the building itself was protesting their departure. With heavy hearts, they moved out, leaving behind the nightmare of the Whispering Heights. As they stepped out of the building for the last time, they looked back one final time, and in the dimly lit windows, they saw the ghostly figures of the asylum patients, their mournful eyes filled with longing and despair. The Whispering Heights stood tall and ominous, its dark secrets and restless spirits hidden from the world. Sarah and Mark had escaped with their lives, but they would forever be haunted by the chilling horror of their new apartment.